just about anybody who used cocaine in the 1980s was using Pablo Escobar's product.
Escobar is probably the most violent, the most ferocious criminal that has ever lived.
He was to cocaine what Ford was to cars.
The kind of money that Pablo Escobar made makes Al Capone look like he was selling carnations on a corner.
When he looked like this, you feel his power.
He was most likely the first criminal billionaire. He declared open war on the Colombian civilization. So either Pablo Escobar was going to survive or the country of Colombia was going to survive, but both of them weren't going to survive together.
Emotions ran high that day at the cemetery in Medellin. Thousands of police were on high alert to avert a possible riot, and they looked on in disbelief as people threw themselves crying, screaming, and chanting at Escobar's coffin. But after a 7-year-long hunt, Joe Toft shed no tears.
Escobar had a mind that I could never really comprehend, and I mean, I tried to figure him out. My obsession with Escobar was one that affected me in a way that when I went to Colombia, I was married. When I came back, I was divorced. So I don't blame Escobar for that. I blame myself for that, because it was a sacrifice that I made and I paid for. Everyone is celebrating the death of Pablo. Pablo Escobar, the #1 trafficker in the world, the #1 criminal in the world. I mean, there's joy throughout probably most law enforcement agencies that know anything about drug trafficking.
If you want comparisons for who Pablo Escobar was, you really have to think of people like John D. Rockefeller and Henry Ford and move that type of paradigm into the world of crime. Because there is no criminal that compares to this guy. He blew up an aircraft with 107 people on board. He blew up a police station with 59 people being killed. He blew up a newspaper. He killed, his people killed, he had killed more than 1,000 police officers, judges, prosecutors, and journalists. And there is no parallel for who this person was.
Pablo Escobar's violent legacy may have indeed been the work of an amoral monster driven by greed and power, but those who loved him stood by him, no matter what.
Yo quiero que recuerden lo bueno que hizo, porque él no hizo lo malo que dicen.
I want people to remember the good things he did, because he didn't do anything wrong. He helped the poor, he built stadiums and a town and a church. He built a homeless shelter for the poor dying in the street. No one talks about the good things, only the bad. Pray for the peace of his soul.